In the heart of the glamorous 1950s Hollywood, a young Swedish actress, May Britt, was on the verge of stardom. Born on the Swedish island of Lidingö in 1934, May wasn't just any actress. She was discovered by two of the most famous filmmakers in Italy, Carlo Ponti and Mario Soldati, when she was just 18 years old. It wasn't long before she was swept into the world of film. With her striking looks and undeniable talent, she soon found herself under contract with 20th Century Fox in 1957, a move that would change the course of her life forever. But what most people didn't know was that behind the glitz and glam, there were battles she had to fight, both professionally and personally. Her breakthrough came when she was cast in the 1958 film The Hunters and later starred opposite Marlon Brando in The Young Lions. But it was her role in The Blue Angel, a part once offered to Marilyn Monroe, that truly set her apart. She played Lola Lola, a young cabaret singer who captivated audiences. The role was a turning point in her career, but there was a dark side to it. The competition to land such a coveted role was fierce, and May Britt's success came at a cost. While Hollywood buzzed with excitement over her talent, she quickly realized the price she'd have to pay for being a woman of foreign descent trying to make it in a male-dominated, highly competitive industry. She wasn't given the same opportunities that her peers were, and soon enough, Hollywood began to cast her aside, limiting her potential. It wasn't long before she faced the harsh reality that being a rising star in Hollywood wasn't as glamorous as it seemed. Yet, despite these challenges, May Britt remained determined. She was much more than the role she was given. She was a fighter. But just when it seemed like her career would fade into obscurity, something incredible happened. May's life was about to take a turn she never could have predicted. In 1960, she met a man who would not only change the course of her career, but also lead her into one of the most controversial love stories in Hollywood history. It was at the famous Mocambo nightclub in Los Angeles where she first locked eyes with Sammy Davis Jr., the charismatic member of the legendary Rat Pack. Sammy, known for his incredible talent and charm, was everything May wasn't. Black in a time when racial boundaries were rigidly enforced, and yet they shared an undeniable connection. Their first meeting was electric, and before long, May and Sammy were inseparable. But this wasn't just a typical Hollywood romance. Their love would become the center of a firestorm of racial tension, sparking fierce backlash. At a time when interracial marriage was illegal in 31 states, their engagement in 1960 was nothing short of scandalous. Their relationship wasn't just a personal affair, it was a political statement that made waves across the nation. And that was just the beginning. But what happened next? What toll did this love affair take on both their lives? How did they handle the hate and threats that followed them at every step? The world was watching, and Sammy's career was suddenly in jeopardy. Not only was he targeted by the press, but his association with May led to him being disinvited from John F. Kennedy's presidential inauguration, a direct result of their interracial union. The consequences were severe, and the couple, despite their love, was forced to take extreme measures for their safety. Sammy, once at the pinnacle of his career, found himself in a position where his love for May was threatening his professional future. This was no longer just a love story, it was a battle for survival. But here's where it gets even more complicated. Despite the intense pressure from the world around them, Sammy and May didn't back down. They stood by each other, ready to face whatever came their way. But as with all stories of passion and defiance, there were sacrifices. Sacrifices that neither of them could have predicted. The toll on their personal lives began to take its toll. And though they managed to hold their heads high, the weight of the world was a heavy burden to bear. The real question, though, is whether their love could withstand the societal forces that tried to tear them apart. Sammy Davis Jr., despite his incredible success, had always struggled with the complexities of race in America, and now, with May at his side, his every move was under the microscope. Their union became a symbol of everything that was wrong with the racial divide of the time. They were constantly under threat, living in fear for their safety, and yet they never gave up on each other. But how long could their love survive in a world that wasn't ready to accept it? And when the pressures of the world finally became too much to bear, was their marriage doomed from the start? Keep watching, because the twists and turns of May and Sammy's love story are far from over. You won't believe what happened next. As May and Sammy's relationship intensified, the world around them grew colder. Despite their deep affection for one another, they were living in an America where love between races wasn't just frowned upon, it was outright illegal in many states. Their engagement in 1960, which should have been a joyous occasion, instead became a catalyst for controversy. Sammy Davis Jr., a man who had helped elect John F. Kennedy, found himself at the center of a storm. The news of his engagement to May, a beautiful Swedish actress, sent shockwaves through the media, and not in a good way. The press, hungry for scandal, began to question everything about their relationship, what it meant for Sammy's career, for the American public, and for the civil rights movement. It wasn't just the press. The racial tensions of the time were palpable, and the couple became a target of hate. Death threats flooded their mailbox, and the couple, once carefree and in love, had to take extreme precautions. Sammy, a man who was used to being in the spotlight, suddenly found himself living under 24-hour security. They were forced to hide their relationship, not just from the public eye, but from a world that was determined to tear them apart. Hollywood, which had once welcomed May with open arms, suddenly turned its back on her. Her career was derailed when her engagement was announced, and her contract with 20th Century Fox wasn't renewed. The very thing that had made her a star now seemed to be the source of her downfall. Yet, through all of this, May and Sammy stood firm. They didn't just defy societal norms, they lived through a constant barrage of hate, threats, and racism. Their wedding, which took place in November 1960, was nothing short of historic. At the time, interracial marriage was a lightning rod for controversy, and their union sparked outrage across the country. In a time when mixed-race marriages were banned in more than 30 states, they were bold enough to go ahead with it, knowing that their love could cost them everything. Sammy's decision to marry May meant he was cut off from the mainstream political scene, even being disinvited from JFK's presidential inauguration. But the worst was yet to come. Their love wasn't just controversial, it became a symbol of resistance. The couple endured daily insults, taunts, and the constant scrutiny of an unforgiving public. Hollywood, which had once celebrated May's talent, turned its back on her. Her career, which had shown such promise, was now a distant memory. She had lost her place in the industry, but the emotional toll on her and Sammy was far greater. Yet, despite the odds, they held on to each other. Sammy Davis Jr., a man known for his charm and wit, was now a man fighting for his love and his right to live freely. May, on the other hand, was just as determined. She had always known that love wasn't supposed to have boundaries. But even she had no idea how difficult it would be to live out that belief in such a turbulent time. And then, as their personal lives were falling apart under the weight of public scrutiny, something else began to shift. May had given up so much for her love with Sammy, but she was also losing herself in the process. Despite the intense bond they shared, the pressures of their environment were simply too much. Sammy, though loving and devoted, was always away, touring relentlessly, leaving May to deal with the harsh realities of their public life alone. The rumors began to swirl. Hollywood gossip columns buzzed with stories of Sammy's infidelities, especially with a dancer named Lola Falana. It was the final blow to their marriage, and in December 1968, May and Sammy's love story came to an end. The divorce, which many had predicted, was painful and heart-wrenching. But what struck people the most wasn't the divorce itself. It was the fact that, despite everything, they still loved each other. Sammy Davis Jr. himself spoke about their love in an interview, stating that they never fell out of love, but their lives simply couldn't coexist in the way they had once hoped. But May didn't stay in the shadows. After the divorce, she made several appearances on television, trying to rebuild her life. She remarried in 1993 to Leonard Ringquist, a man who would be a constant in her life until his death in 2017. But despite the passing of time, May's relationship with Sammy continued to shape her world. She had loved him, and in many ways she never stopped. Even after all these years, Sammy remained a significant part of her story. And here's where it gets truly tragic. Though May had found new love in her later years, nothing could fill the void left by Sammy. He had been her first real love, and his absence left a permanent mark on her heart. But life moves on, and after her long and eventful journey, May's story came to an end on December 11th, 2022, at the age of 91. She died of natural causes at Providence Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, leaving behind a legacy of love, courage, and defiance. Her passing marked the end of an era for those who remembered her, but her family was there to say goodbye. Her son, Mark Davis, confirmed the news, and though May's life had been filled with ups and downs, she left this world with the knowledge that she had lived her truth. But what happens when the lights dim and the cameras fade away? Who is left to remember the woman who had loved so fiercely, who had defied the world's expectations, and who had lived with the weight of history on her shoulders? Her son, Manny Davis, who was Sammy's son from his first marriage, was there to pay a heartbreaking tribute to his stepmother at her funeral. His words, full of emotion and gratitude, left the room in tears. Manny had never forgotten the kindness May had shown him, the love she had given him when he needed it the most. His tribute was a reminder of the incredible woman she was, not just as an actress, but as a mother and a stepmother who gave her all to those she loved. But did this final tribute offer the closure everyone had been looking for? Manny's heartfelt words were a testament to May's lasting impact on those who knew her, but there was so much more to her story. Sammy's presence was still felt, even in death. How had their love shaped her final moments? The answers lie in the people she left behind, and in the legacy she forged despite all odds. Stay tuned, because the next chapter in May, Britt's life is filled with twists and turns you won't expect, and the shocking truth about her family's final farewell will leave you speechless. As May Britt's family gathered to mourn her passing, the atmosphere was one of grief mixed with reflection. For those who had known her, it was a time to celebrate the life of a woman who had endured so much, yet remained strong through it all. But even in death, the questions surrounding May's life were far from over. What would be remembered of this incredible woman who had defied every odd, who had loved and lost, who had lived in the public eye while struggling with the weight of society's judgment? May had always been a woman of mystery and complexity. To the outside world, she was a Swedish beauty who had starred in films and captured the hearts of millions. But those closest to her knew her for the struggles she faced behind the scenes. In the years that followed her divorce from Sammy, May remained largely out of the spotlight, focusing on her personal life and her family. She married Lennart Ringqvist in 1993, and together they enjoyed a relatively quiet life, far removed from the controversies that had once defined her. Yet, despite her attempts to live a more peaceful life, May's connection to Sammy and their tumultuous love story was never truly behind her. It lingered like a shadow over everything she did. But perhaps the most heartbreaking part of her later years was the loss of her daughter, Tracy. In 2020, Tracy Davis passed away at the age of 59. For May, the pain of losing her daughter must have been unbearable, and it only added to the weight she carried as she entered her final years. As much as May had tried to find happiness after Sammy, it seemed as though life had a way of testing her resilience at every turn. Yet she remained a source of strength for those around her, particularly for her sons Mark and Jeff. When May passed away, it was her family who was left to pick up the pieces. Mark Davis, her son, confirmed the news of her death and spoke about his mother's life, sharing her legacy with the world. He remembered her not just as a mother and a Hollywood star, but as a woman who had fought for her place in the world, who had loved fiercely, and who had never given up, even when the odds were stacked against her. But it wasn't just her children who were left to mourn her. Manny Davis, Sammy's son from his first marriage, was also deeply affected by her passing. Manny had always viewed May as a second mother, someone who had played a significant role in his life. At her funeral, Manny paid a deeply emotional tribute to May, a tribute that moved everyone in the room to tears. He spoke about the love she had shown him, the sacrifices she had made for their family, and the kindness she had given when it was needed most. His words were heartfelt and raw, a testament to the bond they had shared. In that moment, it was clear that May Britt's legacy was more than just her career in Hollywood or her marriage to Sammy Davis Jr. Her legacy was in the love she had given, the family she had raised, and the strength she had shown in the face of adversity. Even in death, she was remembered not just for the roles she played on screen, but for the real-life roles she had embraced: mother, stepmother, wife, and friend. As the funeral came to a close, those who knew May the best were left with a bittersweet sense of closure. Her passing marked the end of an era, but the stories of her life, her love for Sammy, her struggles in Hollywood, and the family she had built would continue to be passed down for generations to come. Yet, even after all the tributes and memories, there was one lingering question that remained. Did May ever find the peace she was searching for? And perhaps the most profound aspect of May Britt's life is the way her story intersected with that of Sammy Davis Jr. Even after their divorce, Sammy's love for May never truly faded. In many ways, he remained a part of her story, even in her final moments. How did the love they shared continue to shape her legacy? Was their love the ultimate defining factor in her life? Or was it the strength she showed in facing the world's judgment, in standing by Sammy when others told her not to, that made her story truly unforgettable? As we reflect on May Britt's life, it's clear that her journey was about more than just fame or controversy. It was about love, loss, resilience, and the bonds that hold us together, even when everything around us seems to be falling apart. But the most haunting question of all remains: could May have ever truly found peace? Did she ever stop fighting for love, or was she forever haunted by the ghosts of her past? Stay tuned, because the final chapter of May Britt's life is about to take a shocking twist. You won't believe how her family's journey after her passing unfolds. The answers you've been waiting for are closer than you think. In the years after her death, her family began to piece together the parts of May's story that had been hidden beneath the public image. Her son, Mark, and her other children were left to navigate life without the woman who had shaped them, not just as a mother, but as a symbol of resilience in the face of unimaginable odds. But their grief was not just a reflection of their loss. It was a reflection of the woman May had been, a woman who never truly fit into the neat boxes the world had tried to place her in. She had been a trailblazer, a woman ahead of her time, and in many ways, her journey was a fight against the constraints of society, a society that wasn't ready for her. Her relationship with Manny Davis, her stepson from Sammy's first marriage, speaks volumes about the kind of woman May was. Manny's tribute at her funeral wasn't just a goodbye. It was a celebration of her love, of the unbreakable bond they shared. Through Manny's words, we learned that May wasn't just a star in the movies. She was a star in the lives of those she loved. She may have lost much in her lifetime, from her career in Hollywood to her personal struggles, but she never lost her ability to love deeply and unconditionally. Yet, there is something even more profound about May's legacy, something that might surprise you. Despite everything, the struggles, the public judgment, the racism she and Sammy faced, May never gave up on love. She didn't just fight for her love with Sammy, she fought for her family, for the people she cared about, and for the future she believed in. Through her life, we see the importance of never backing down, of standing up for what you believe in, even when the world is against you. And here's where it gets really interesting. May wasn't just a part of Sammy's story, she was her own woman, a woman who chose her own path, even when that path was littered with obstacles. In the face of immense pressure, May carved out a place for herself. She didn't allow Hollywood to dictate her worth, and she didn't let public opinion define her. In a world where women, especially interracial couples, were expected to stay in the shadows, May boldly stepped into the light. She stood tall, proud of who she was and who she loved, and for that she will always be remembered. But there is more. Just as her family continues to honor her memory, so does the world. May Britt's life, filled with triumphs and tragedies, is a reminder of the complexities of love and the consequences of societal rejection. Even in death, she continues to teach us lessons we will never forget. As for the ultimate question, did May ever find peace? Perhaps the peace she sought wasn't a destination but a journey. It's clear that, while her life was filled with struggles, she found peace in her relationships, in the love she gave and received. And while she may not have had the conventional happy ending that many expected, May Britt's story is one of quiet strength, defiance, and love that defied the odds. In the end, her story isn't just about a woman and a man, or the love that once sparked controversy. It's about resilience. It's about finding peace not in perfection, but in embracing the beauty of imperfection. And as we reflect on her life, we are reminded that sometimes the most significant legacies are the ones we don't see coming. May Britt's story, full of twists, turns, and unforgettable moments, has finally come to an end. But her legacy? That's one that will live on forever. And as we say goodbye, one last question remains. What will we do with the lessons May left behind? How will we carry forward the message of love, resilience, and breaking boundaries that she so fiercely championed? The answers are up to us. And as her memory lives on, so too does the inspiration she gave to all who knew her, both on and off the screen. With that, we conclude May Britt's journey, a journey that will never be forgotten. But as the world continues to turn, her story will remain in the hearts of those who remember her as more than just a Hollywood star. She was a fighter, a lover, and above all, a woman who chose to live her truth.